The universe has an unexpected message for you today, one that might resonate with your unspoken questions. A connection is being revisited, and a feeling is stirring within someone. The universe urges you to listen closely to what's coming. There's an intensity between you, something you may have already sensed but couldn't quite name. At this very moment, this person is overwhelmed by emotions they can no longer control. Something within them has changed silently but irreversibly. It's as if they're realizing, in a new way, that something essential in your dynamic is no longer the same. They're facing a transformation that can't be ignored, a deep, internal movement. Despite any physical or emotional distance between you, you are at the center of this transformation. This person is beginning to acknowledge what they may have long tried to avoid. What was once unspoken now troubles them, as they sense that you perceive their changes even without words. This leaves them feeling exposed, uncomfortable, and vulnerable. You may have noticed over time that this person rarely spoke directly about their feelings. Perhaps they often hesitated to act, even when on the verge of doing so. They might have learned to hide their emotions, to let you lead, to stay on the sidelines. But now, something has broken within them, and this internal rupture is causing everything to shift direction. An impulse is emerging from the deepest part of this person's being, a calling that doesn't come from their rational mind but from an older, more instinctive place. They're starting to realize they need to take action, even if they don't know exactly how. This movement begins because, in some way, you stirred something dormant within them. The universe shows that this isn't a simple process. This person has faced similar situations before, which makes everything more delicate. They're reliving old memories while simultaneously confronting a present that demands a choice. This leaves them with a dilemma: continue to ignore what they feel or allow their heart to lead. Until now, logic has always prevailed, but today another force is beginning to gain ground. This awakening isn't gentle. There's discomfort and fear, but there's also an urgency that can no longer be stifled. This person is at a turning point. They think about you so often that they wonder if you can tell how much you're in their thoughts. And even without saying it, they're trying to find a way to you, a path they don't yet know but feel they need to follow. Perhaps they haven't yet managed to translate all of this into actions. You might feel their presence and, at the same time, their absence, which can be confusing. But internally, they are reorganizing themselves, trying to understand what they feel and how to act on it. And in this process, you remain the central point. This person also knows that you have a unique sensitivity to perceive them, which disconcerts them. They feel you read them easily, creating a tension between the desire to be close and the need to maintain a certain distance to think. This duality between wanting and fearing, between getting closer and protecting themselves, is present in their every gesture, even when disguised. As paradoxical as it may seem, part of this connection is unfolding in silence. Even if you're in contact, a part of them remains hidden. And that's exactly what the universe wants to reveal today. This person is trying to make a difficult decision, guided by an internal force that compels them to step out of control and follow what they feel. They can no longer pretend that nothing has changed. There comes a time when logic begins to lose ground. What was previously carefully calculated, planned, or avoided becomes dominated by a deeper, more instinctive, more genuine movement. And that's what's happening to this person. The universe shows that even though they resisted before, now something inside them pushes them in another direction, a direction that points to you. What's emerging isn't simple or comfortable. It's not a passing desire or a fantasy that disappears at the first obstacle. It's a profound feeling that requires courage to be recognized, and this courage is slowly emerging within them, even if accompanied by hesitation. They know they're facing a significant decision, choosing between staying on the familiar, safe path or making room for a new way of being by your side, a way that demands surrender, vulnerability, and truth. As this person grapples with choosing their heart over long-held reason, discomfort mounts. It's a scary prospect. The universe shows they can no longer ignore it. Despite silence being their dominant language until now, an inner turmoil demands expression. While they may not articulate it clearly, they are acting on everything they feel. They reflect, analyze, and rehearse responses, but deep down, a decision has already been made. Something needs to change between you. This transformation isn't easy, it's a conflict. Part of them still wants to keep things as they were, stick to what's known, and protect themselves from the consequences. But another part, more intense and honest, refuses to remain dormant. They are being pushed from within, guided by something beyond comprehension, and it all revolves around you. It's not doubt about who you are, but a concern about what all this means. Even without being able to explain it, they feel there's something between you unlike anything else, something that defies logic, easy explanations, and the justifications they always use to maintain distance. This feeling forces them to confront parts of themselves they often avoided. This might be why they sometimes withdraw or close themselves off, not because they don't feel, but precisely because they feel too much. They need space, silence, and solitude, but this separation isn't an end. It's a time for processing, understanding, and preparing for what comes next. Even if it's not obvious to you now, a process is unfolding. This person is rebuilding themselves internally. And while this happens, they observe, remember, feel, and slowly allow themselves to imagine a new possibility with you, a different way of being, without the blocks of the past, without the protections that no longer serve. The universe reveals this is a delicate moment. While there's a strong desire for closeness, there's also fear of what it could mean, fear of repeating patterns, of getting hurt, of getting lost. However, this fear isn't stronger than the desire to understand what this connection truly is. A kind of internal reconciliation is taking place between what they believe they should feel and what they actually feel, and that changes everything. They realize you see them, that you understand nuances no one else does, and this disarms them. Because no matter how much they try to hide it, a part of them wants to be understood exactly like that, without masks, without defenses, without excuses. This person is trying to find a balance between what they've lived and what they want to live. Amidst this process, you remain a constant presence. Even when they pull away, even when they fall silent, the connection between you remains active, like a thread that doesn't break. It merely changes shape. What the universe makes clear is that this story isn't over yet. It's curious how certain feelings insist on hiding just when they most want to be seen, and what's happening between you now seems to walk exactly on this terrain. Even though this person is undergoing a profound transformation, parts of them remain silent, not from a lack of emotion, but from an excessive caution, fear, words not found. The universe shows that much of what's being experienced is happening without you directly noticing. It's as if everything is unfolding behind the scenes while the appearance tries to stay stable. But behind this balance is a soul in conflict, someone who thinks about you more often than they admit and feels more than they can show. You may even feel at times that there's a cold distance, as if this person is trying to keep you out of something. But the truth is, they're trying to understand themselves first. There's a side of them that still hesitates, that tries to rationalize what they're feeling, that wants to regain control. But there's also another side that's increasingly present, insisting on following their heart, even if it means exposing themselves. And that's where the impasse arises. At the same time they want to be close, they feel they need space to organize their own feelings. This movement isn't about moving away from you, it's about creating a moment of inner clarity, as if they feel they can't truly find you until they find themselves first. You might be confused now. You may be wondering why this person doesn't say openly what they feel. Why do they hesitate? Why do they hold on so much? But the universe explains. There is a process happening and it is slow, not because of indifference, but because it is too real. She needs time to accept her own contradictions. And in that time, even without words, you continue to be present in everything. There's something this person wants you to understand, even if they haven't voiced it. They've navigated tough experiences, moments that led them to withdraw, protect themselves, and remain silent. These experiences left unshared marks, profoundly influencing how they engage with this connection. That's why, despite the depth of their feelings, they sometimes pull back, not from a lack of emotion, but from the fear of reliving unhealed wounds. The universe makes it clear, you've likely sensed this. You felt something unspoken, a weight in the air, even without a name. This very sensitivity ignited their certainty that you are different, that you see beyond their words, perceiving what's happening even when they try to conceal it. This perception creates discomfort, as it places them before someone who truly sees them. And being seen so completely can be daunting, especially for someone who learned to survive by hiding. Yet, this truth also brings relief, as for years, this person longed to be understood without having to explain everything. They are now at a point of transition, where the past whispers insecurities, but the future beckons with a new promise. They know they can't continue old patterns. If they want to experience something genuine with you, they must open up in a different way, even if it means shedding old armor. You act as a mirror for them, reflecting who they are when no one is looking. This is why your connection is so impactful. It's not about superficial words or planned gestures. It's about what vibrates beneath the surface, what's felt when nothing is being said. And still, deep down, they hope you'll remain, through the silence and pauses, because despite the confusion, a feeling persists, an undefined something that insists on staying. The universe reveals that your story is being written in the spaces between encounters, in remembered glances, in gestures yet to come. Sometimes the heaviest burdens aren't what was said, but what was left unsaid, implicit promises, unfulfilled gestures, expectations built in silence and never confirmed aloud. Part of what you two are experiencing now has its roots in these nebulous areas of the relationship, where expectations weren't met and feelings were never named. This person feels, more strongly than they'd like, that something important between you was left unresolved. Perhaps you never truly discussed what you wanted to build together. Maybe you understood each other more through glances than through words. And in this silent understanding, you both assumed the other knew what was expected, what hurt, what was important. But the truth is, they didn't always know. This is where frustrations began, not from a lack of feeling, but from a lack of clarity. This created a subtle but constant misalignment, like two people trying to walk side by side but at different paces. The universe makes it clear that it wasn't a lack of love, but a lack of real communication, and now this absence is taking a heavy emotional toll. This person is feeling the impact more intensely than they let on. They realize that at some point, promises, even unsaid ones, were broken. This creates a kind of internal mourning, a sense that something precious could have been protected but slipped away. Yet, within them, there's a desire to rebuild, to do things differently. That's why, even recognizing that the current chapter seems to have ended, they can't fully close the door. Something is unfinished, still pulsating. And this doesn't vanish just because gestures have stopped or conversations have become rare. On the contrary, the silence has amplified its presence, the absence has intensified its importance. The universe also wants to remind you that this isn't about blame, not about who made the biggest mistake or who should have acted differently. It's about two imperfect people who met at a certain moment and now need to decide if they still want to walk together. If so, they'll need to build a new form of relationship, more conscious, more honest, freer from the assumptions of the past. This person is currently immersed in this process, reflecting on what could have been different, trying to understand where the connection began to falter, and, above all, if there's a possible way forward. The answer they find isn't simple, but there's a clear inclination. They want to discover if there's something new to be experienced between you. At the same time, this decision cannot be unilateral. The universe shows you that this reconstruction requires the presence of both of you. It takes courage to say what was held back, to acknowledge what hurt, to admit what was expected, even if it now seems too late. This person wants you to listen openly, without defenses or justifications. The challenge is significant but not impossible. There's an undeniable chemistry between you, a connection beyond logic, inviting you to move forward, but on new terms. This person's soul recognizes that the old way of relating is no longer viable. They're seeking a fresh approach with you, one not based on assumptions or past repetitions. It's about starting anew with maturity, truth, and space for each of you to express your needs without fear of misunderstanding. This journey is unfolding now, even in silence. The universe wants you to know there's a genuine desire for a fresh start, but it requires emotional honesty. Without it, there's a risk of repeating old patterns, and neither of you wants the same outcome. Some chapters don't end with a period but with ellipses. The universe presents this moment as a turning point, not a conclusion. Your story isn't over. There's room for a new beginning, but it demands conscious choices and, above all, honesty. This person clearly feels that the old cycle of loving, reacting, and protecting is no longer effective. They know they can no longer hide behind fear, logic, or their long-used defenses. Something inside them urges change, not just because of their feelings for you, but for themselves. Despite hesitation, they understand they need to look forward, even if it hurts or means leaving parts of the past behind. This shift is happening now. Slowly, they're releasing old expectations, learned patterns, and idealizations to embrace something real, possible, and imperfect. They believe you can be part of this, but only if there's a truth born from human recognition, vulnerability, and a safe space for emotions to be expressed without fear. The universe shows you're at this point too. You perceive the intensity of the connection, knowing there's something strong, inexplicable, still pulsating between you. But now it's different. You can no longer ignore the signs or live on the surface. You both must dive in or let the tide carry you away. The time of unconscious waiting is over. What begins now is a phase of decision-making, which doesn't need to be immediate or dramatic, but it does need to be honest. This person is ready to navigate this new phase cautiously, without running away. The universe reveals a deep calling to explore this bond with more presence, surrender, and awareness. Despite doubts, reservations, and unresolved pains, there's a genuine desire to allow themselves to experience this again, as long as it's with you and in a different way. Perhaps this very openness can rewrite everything. It's no longer about repeating promises or trying to fix the past. It's about accepting that what existed has taught enough, and now you have the chance to create something new, where both of you choose to be present daily with lightness and depth simultaneously. The universe reminds you that this new chapter doesn't begin with ready-made answers. It begins with willingness, with listening, with the courage to look into someone's eyes and say, I am here, and I want to find out where this can take us. This starting point is available now, if both of you choose to walk with maturity and truth. The connection between you has never been ordinary. Therefore, don't expect the new beginning to be obvious or linear, but if it's true, it will be transformative. Perhaps that's exactly what life is offering, not a repetition, but a chance to evolve together. If this message resonated with you, it's because the universe intended for you to hear it today. Some stories still deserve a new chance, and some hearts can still find each other in a more whole, more conscious way.